Hello everybody, welcome back to Maths. Hope you're doing well, hope you're doing okay. In today's session we're going to be taking a look into scatter graphs. We're only going to go over one question because this is relatively straightforward and all the questions are pretty much the same. But before we dive in, can you be really nice to me and click that subscribe button and also hit the like button because it helps my channel grow. So let's dive straight in. The first question says, draw the line of best fit. So let's take a look at what the scatter graph actually shows before we do that. So it shows the scores of some students for biology score, whatever this thing is, and it shows their physics score. And it shows that probably clearly it looks like the better the biology score, the better the physics score, or maybe the worse the biology score, the worse the physics score. But the first question is saying that we need to draw the line of best fit. So there's a couple of rules with the line of best fit. The first thing is it does not always need to go through zero. So you can see in this case, going through zero probably isn't the worst idea, but it doesn't always have to, okay? Because sometimes the data might need you to go up there, for example. Sometimes it might be a little bit more steep like this, for example. But general rule of thumb, it does not need to go through the zero, it doesn't need to go through the origin. The second rule of thumb is we're going to try and fit as many data points either side of it as possible. So we're going to try and get half the data points on one side, half on the other side. Doesn't matter if some go through, but we're going to try and get that general trend line. So something like, I'm thinking maybe that's a good line. But also what would make this better is if I come all the way down to there. So that's probably a decent trend line. Maybe we can just straighten that up a little bit. So something like this would be reasonable. But also, the thing to note is that everybody in the test is going to draw something slightly different, which means your answers to question for the rest of the questions is going to be slightly different as well, which is absolutely fine because one person might get something like this, okay, and somebody else might get something like this. And in the exam, you're probably going to get at least a mark for doing that line of best fit in the general direction. That's probably okay. But if you are doing, let's say, question 4 and 5, where you're having to read from the trend line, somebody going from this line up to there is going to read a very different point going across. And that is absolutely fine because the examiner will have a bit of a margin for error on that, and they'll probably read it from your line of best fit. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's just get rid of those. And we'll just go to my original line of best fit. So we've done that first question, that's good. The second question then says, describe the correlation. Now, what correlation do we have? So it's just positive correlation. Now, I know we could have strong positive correlation, we could have weak correlation, something like that. You don't need the word strong or weak. Positive correlation is absolutely fine. So positive correlation, what that means is if one thing is increasing, the other one is also increasing, which means it's a general direction of that direction. But for example, a negative correlation would be going in this direction because that means as this graph decreases, this one increases or vice versa. So hopefully that makes sense, the way I've explained that. So let's just get rid of those. Okay, let's take a look at the second one then. So this one says which data point is an anomaly. Now, there isn't technically one which is an anomaly, but I just wanted to talk about what that word means. So I think this one might be classed as an anomaly, but it might not be as well. So that was kind of subjective. But an anomaly, maybe I can make this better. Maybe I can put a point here, for example. So an anomaly is just a point of data which looks like it doesn't fit the trend at all and it isn't anywhere near the data. So you can see all of our data points are clumped here and this one's over here. So it's not near it at all, really, is it? So this would be the anomaly. So when you're pointing that out on the exam, you could just list that. You could just say, well, it's 60 and 43, whatever it is. You could just write there's a coordinate maybe, or you could just circle it and just maybe just say, here it is. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, on to the next one then. It says a student scored 45 on her biology test, predict her physics score. So one of the really useful things that we use these kind of things for is, let's say somebody is here for a biology score, but we need to use the class data to figure out what their biology score if they missed the exam, for example. So 45, we're going to go to the biology axis and read up from 45. Here's a common misconception. You can see we've got 40 and 60. This might look like it's 45, and I've seen this mistake so many times, and especially for more intelligent students, really, is that they make the mistake early on because they're trying to be clever on this bit, which is fine, it makes sense. But let's think about it reasonably. Every time you put a mark on a graph, just think, have I actually put that in the right place? So there looks like it might be 45, but I can see that's halfway between 40 and 60, which means it must be 50. So just be careful. So 45 My eyes are quite old, so I'm just going to go about there, I think, and straight line up. Okay, it's got to be completely straight. As soon as you hit your trend line, okay, you're going to read across, and that's where you're going to read from. And then we're going to read this data point. I'm just going to have to go off screen and see it. I think that's, can't quite see that. I'm just going to say it's about 58. But if you can zoom in, your eyes are better than mine, you might get a more accurate reading than that. Anyway, let's take a look at the next one then. So let's do this one, number 5. So a student scored 80 on his physics test. So 80 is here. And we're going to go across and read from there. And it says, oh, actually, it's not quite straight, is it? So it's to there. And we're predicting their biology score, so reading all the way down. I think that's probably halfway. I reckon that's maybe between 60 and 70. So I'm saying 65 for this one. But like I said, it's based on what your trend line is, because that's where you're reading your data. So even if you made a mistake on this, you might be entitled to the follow-through marks on that one. So that would be fine as well. So you're probably going to be given a leeway. So 65 is the exact answer. The exam mark scheme might say something like 63 to 67, for example, and they would give you the marks for that one. Anyway, hopefully that all makes sense to you guys. Thanks for watching the video. Anyway, please do me a massive favor. It'll take you 1 second. Hit the like button and also hit the subscribe button, and I shall see you in the next one.